My meter is green. It is spooling up. All right, everything looks good. The meeting is yours, Mayor. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. We are going to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Sampson, are you going to lead us like usual? Please and thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And the next thing on our agenda is we'll be having words of inspiration this evening we have two guests with us. We have Mohammed Ahmad and Iman Shanshad Nusir from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Gentlemen.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Mayor of the City of Caption, Council members, and fellow citizen, my prayer is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The peace, blessings, and mercy of God be upon you all and upon all of us. First of all, I'm thankful to you inviting me for this great meeting. And number two, we are thankful to God Almighty that although the pandemic is going on and we have virtual kind of meeting, we can see each other, we can talk and discuss our affairs. I have two parts of my presentation. Number one, introduction and message. And number two, the prayers. My name is Imam Shamshad Nasir, and I belong to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which is in 200 countries of the world. Our message is love for all and hatred for none. We believe that the Messiah who was to come in the latter days has come in the person of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. And after his demise, 1908, his successorship is going on. The present head, worldwide spiritual head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who is residing in London. Our message is that we should love humanity and we should believe in dialogue and we should stop cruelty in the world, but not with fighting or war. War and fighting is not the solution for peace. For peace, dialogue is the important things. This time we are all worried about conflict going on between Palestine and Israel. Innocent men, children, women are killed both sides. Quranic teaching is that if a single person is killed, it is a killing of the humanity. So the powers, supreme powers, superpowers like America and other Western countries should intervene now, not when everybody died and things are destroyed and we are just issuing statements. It is not right. We should come to the table. We superpower can intervene as early as possible. And we believe dialogue. We don't believe in a jihad that you kill innocent person, innocent people. And our message is love for all, hatred for none. After that, I just want to read prayers from the Holy Quran and one prayer from the Holy Quran from Christian young people. When they were suffering, they prayed to God. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وإليك يرجع السلام حينا ربنا بالسلام وادخلنا دار السلام تبارك ربنا وتعالى يا ذو الجلال والإكرام. The translation of these prayers, which I just recited before you in English. In the name of God, the gracious and the merciful. All praise belongs to God, Lord of all the worlds, the gracious and the merciful, Master of the day of judgment. Thee alone do we worship and thee alone do we implore for help. Our Master, our Lord, guide us in the right path, the path of those whom you have bestowed thy blessings, who have not incurred thy displeasure, and those who have not gone astray. Our Lord, grant us the goodness of this world and goodness of the hereafter. And the prayer of the Christian, which is mentioned in the Holy Quran, our Lord, bestow on us mercy from thyself and provide for us right guidance in our affairs. May God bless all of us. And I said, our message is love for all, hatred for none. We believe tolerance, respect, and making the bridge of dialogue between the community. May God bless you all. May God help you all. May God enable all of us to continue with the mercy, to show the mercy to the humanity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessing be God upon all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Iman Nasir, for those beautiful words. We definitely can't go wrong with a message that says love for all. I wish you have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. So the next thing on our agenda tonight would be a roll call. Michelle?
Mayor Milan,
I am here in Clawson, Michigan.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Here in Clawson, Michigan.
Councilmember Phillips,
You're in Clawson.
Councilmember Sampson.
Aaron Clausen.
Wonderful. The next item on the agenda would be approval of the agenda. Now, I believe the agenda that I have does not have any corrections on it. So Mike, could you please just walk us through quickly the changes to this agenda and then
Sure.
make a motion?
Please remove agenda item 9B1, the planned unit development. The applicant has requested to postpone this to a future date yet determined. That was under Jill's presentation. I believe she might still speak about it, but there would be no action on that tonight. And item 11D, the park bench, further discussions with Ms. Kramer's family. They will wait to postpone any dedication that they wanted to do until all the family can be here. The family appreciates everything and knows the Memorial Day event that you already approved will be outstanding, and they look forward to coming to the city at some point to come see their new bench that is over there at the Memorial Park. So those two items, 9B1 and 11D.
Great, thank you.
I move the agenda be approved as presented with the removal of 9B1 and 11D.
Support.
Great. Roll call, Michelle? Or any discussion? Sorry. Councilmember Sampson, do you have anything?
No.
How about Councilwoman Moffitt? Councilwoman Phillips?
Oh, sorry, my air conditioner just kicked on.
Okay, then I guess we can go for a vote.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Okay, that was approved. We've just approved the agenda with those modifications. The next thing on the agenda would be an update and introduction of me. So, hi, I'm me. Mr. Smith, I think this is your section today.
Yep, I just wanted to do, it's my pleasure, of course, to officially introduce Mayor Paula Milan this evening. On Tuesday, May 4th, as some of you might not have been aware, Mayor Reese Scripture resigned her position. And therefore, due to the charter, Mayor Pro Tem Paula Milan is now fulfilling those obligations. Clearly, some of you are not aware of that change that occurred, so we felt it was best served to start the meeting off with a formal introduction and update from the new mayor. Prior to the meeting, interim city clerk Michelle Cuckoo did swear her in officially. So the floor is yours, Mayor Milan.
Great, thank you. Let's do, the next item on the agenda would be public comments for items on the agenda. So if anyone would like to speak this evening for items that are on the agenda, Ken will give the instructions and he will facilitate that portion of this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we do have, looks like several members of the public online with us this evening. If you'd like to speak, we just ask that you raise your hand and we will call on you in the order that is received. The way to raise your hand is if you click on participants on the bottom of your screen, that will open up a dialog box that says at the bottom of the dialog box, there's a raise hand feature. So we're gonna give that just a moment. Again, we just ask that you raise your hand to speak at this time. And I am not seeing any hands raised at this moment, Mayor.
Okay, great. Then we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which would be consideration of approving the following consent agenda. Minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, as presented. Minutes of the city council budget workshop meeting held on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, as presented. Minutes of the city council budget workshop meeting held on Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, as presented. Approving the annual tree planting program utilizing Marine City Nursery not to exceed $33,521.87 using Metro Act funds. Accepting the Affordability and Planning Grant Award for a water rate study from Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy in the amount of $10,000. And the list of bills as presented in the amount of $602,361.26.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I motion we accept the consent agenda minus item F, list of bills. Talk about that later.
Okay, anyone else?
I'll support that.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to have any discussion about any of these items?
Yeah, we want to move item F.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said it just move item F to ask questions about the bills.
Okay. So then with no other discussion, we can enter a vote for this. And then move the bills to the end of the agenda, correct?
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett.
Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda has been approved as listed, minus the bills, which we'll address later in the meeting. Then the next thing on the agenda is a proclamation in support of declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares the first Friday in June, June 4th, 2021, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Clawson, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move the proclamation declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Clawson be approved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I have a question.
You probably need a second. We get a second.
Who did a second?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Moffett.
Susan did.
Go ahead, Captain.
I have a question for Sergeant Saravello. Is he here? Oh, yeah, there you are. All right, is the police department doing anything in regards to this week?
We always have gun locks on hand if people want to pass them out or come and pick them up.
Okay.
But you just demoted me back to 2002, just so you know.
Sorry, Chief.
It was a very good year, Scott. Okay. So I think I'll read the proclamation if that's appropriate to read it at this time. 2021 proclamation declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Clawson to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence and declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas every day, more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence alongside more than 230 who were shot and wounded. And on average, there are more than 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high income countries. And whereas Michigan has 1,212 gun deaths every year with a rate of 12.1 deaths per 100,000 people. Michigan has the 31st highest rate of gun deaths in the US. And whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. And whereas cities across the nation, including Clawson, are working to end the senseless violence and evidence-based solutions with evidence-based solutions. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than a year of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15. And on June 4th, 2021, to recognize the 24th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, they chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. Orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 4th, the first Friday in June in 2021, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 4th, 2021, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Mayor Paula Milan of the City of Clawson, declares the first Friday in June 4th, 2021, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Okay, that's that. And I think we need to take a vote still.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's so much, right? It's just such a heavy topic, but so important for all of our communities.
Madam Mayor, can I say something?
Oh, of course. I'm so sorry.
Obviously, this community just had a tragic loss of Caitlin Heath due to a domestic violence and a gun violence. She was only 15 years old. So it is hitting home for this community and for the school district that we recognize this. So I appreciate the council taking the time. We had a moment of silence at a prior meeting, and I appreciated that, and so did the community. So I just don't think this moment could pass without bringing that forward. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do in these situations that are things we wouldn't even think of, and the tragedies that run deep and go throughout the community. Very important to have policies in place and just this personal support of each other. So thank you very much for you and your team for all that you do for our community. So the next item on the agenda, we moved the planned unit development application. We removed that. So Mike, you said, I see Jill. So Jill has something else to discuss. Would that be the zoning amendment for residential uses in B1 district by any chance?
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question
Of course.
in regards to the thing we just postponed? There were several letters from surrounding neighbors and stuff that wanted them read. Will you acknowledge them and let them know we will read them the next time this is on the meeting agenda?
You're asking me, right?
You or
okay.
Michael?
Okay. I know Mike and I both had contact with several of the people who emailed us and informed them that this had been postponed temporarily. I think the best thing to do would be to address it when it comes back up again. But I think I'm glad you brought it up because we did have quite a few people who were very concerned about this issue and wanted to be heard. So whatever, make sure we have it promoted in advance next time so that we can let these people know that it's coming back before us.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that they didn't think we swept them under the rug.
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay.
Mike, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
Nope, I concur with your statements. I've contacted both the main individuals that submitted things. So
Okay, thank you. So Jill, I think you can tell us what you're here for today.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Milan and members of council. Thank you for having me present to you this evening a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance for our B1 district. And I'm wondering, I do have the ability to share my screen here. Thank you, Ken. So I just have a couple of slides that I thought might make it a little bit easier to get through this agenda item. So this is just a zoning amendment. It's actually a pretty straightforward amendment. The few slides that I do have follow along with the memo that was included in your agenda packet. But for the benefit of the community who may not have read through all that, this was initially started as a request from the property owner at 288 West 14 Mile. They had requested this amendment because they have purchased this property a couple of years ago, intending on turning it into a retail space and a gallery. And they did use it that way. They got approval from Planning Commission a couple of years ago, but their business plans changed and they are looking to sell the property. But because it's still a residential structure, it's a challenge to find another business use that fits that specific character. The ordinance doesn't permit additional residential uses to go back into that district. So the property owners asked if the city would consider an amendment to the district. So currently the intent of the B1 district is to provide really for retail businesses and service uses. These are intended to be more local in nature to serve nearby residential areas. Some of the highlights of the zoning language, encouraging the concentration of local business, promoting the best use of land at strategic locations. We're trying to kind of concentrate businesses in certain areas, and then ensure that development is compatible with the nearby residential areas and potentially serve as a transition area. Originally, as we thought about zoning, maybe 20, 30 and beyond years ago, we were really looking to isolate uses. We were looking to isolate residential away from residential, or residential away from commercial. And so we did a lot to separate those things. And that's probably why your ordinance reads the way that it is, where we have commercial areas just as being commercial. We have residential areas just as being residential. But we've been adapting over the last several years to recognize that there could potentially be some residential uses that are not only compatible with a business district, but frankly, where people want to be. They want to not have to drive necessarily everywhere they go. They want to have things within walking distance. So we've got some mixed use districts in the community now. This is not one of them at this time. Right now we have retail businesses, offices, restaurants, other non-residential uses that are just permitted by right. And then special land uses include some of our public services, are maybe more intense commercial or institutional uses like colleges, that would be permitted with special land use approval. That means that they could be permitted in the district, but depending on where they're located, they may need some special consideration. So the Planning Commission talked about the potential impacts of allowing the residential uses in the B1 district. And some of the things that they talked about were, would we be losing commercial space in those districts to residential uses? Would that limit the convenience retail areas that we've set aside for the neighborhoods? Could there be some compatibility issues between residents, maybe newer residents that move in, with the adjacent uses, business uses that are permitted already? On the other hand, they talked about, we do have a couple of residential structures that could be difficult to convert to business uses. Because again, once they're approved for business uses, the residential structures can't be returned to residential uses. Any residential structures that we have currently are there because they're non-conforming. So the proposed amendment is to add two types of uses. So the first really is a reflection of those currently non-conforming single-family home structures. And it would allow those that were converted to a commercial use to be converted back into a single-family residential use. So this would be only homes that were in existence at the time of the ordinance, that would limit or prohibit any new single-family homes from being built in those areas. And then the second use type would be to allow a live-work unit. So it's primarily going to be something frontward facing that is more commercial in nature, but residential perhaps in the back or above. Very similar to some of the things that we might see in our mixed use districts, where we're having people be able to live and work in the same space, with a couple of provisions for that. So display areas are inside, just like we would see compatible with other uses in the B1 district, and then no more than two people that don't live in there being employed on the premises. So a couple of little restrictions on that. Adding a definition for live work, just so that we're clear about what that means. Any dwelling unit used for both dwelling purposes and any non-residential use permitted in the zoning district. So this would also, again, be very specific to only uses that are permitted in the B1 district could have a dwelling unit attached with it. And then the third part of the amendment is to add a parking standard for that. So that's one space for the residential unit for live work, plus anything that's required for the non-residential use. And that would be based on the gross square footage of the building accessible to the public. So where would this apply? It would be in the B1 districts. I've outlined them in red, kind of bold red here, so that you could see those areas kind of highlighted there. They're primarily along West 14 Mile and Main, or Rochester, excuse me. Some of the images of what we see there now, this is along West 14 Mile. These are the couple of homes really between North Custer and North Washington. This is what they look like. This was the subject property where the property owners made the initial request. And then this is North Rochester. Just some of those images, and along South Rochester Road. We did have, if I go back here, there are a couple areas that are zone B1 or that had been zoned that along South Main, but those have been changed with that recent update. So I didn't highlight those on this map. We haven't had that map updated yet. I think, so then just the requested action for council is to approve the proposed zoning amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does anyone have any questions? Councilmember Sampson?
Nope.
Councilwoman Moffett?
The other question I have is would like an Airbnb be one of the intended uses of these? Is that, so that's that wouldn't fall under this?
That's an interesting question. So it would, if they were, if they're in an existing home, so certainly not in the live work unit, because that's intended to be specifically the commercial plus the residential associated with it. I don't believe that we regulate currently the short-term rentals. So if we, I guess that's something that we should consider. It wouldn't be only in this situation, but it would be citywide. Do we allow that? It's intended that these would be used as single family homes, but then whatever we're allowing in single family districts would also apply there as well in terms of a use. But the intent is that it's a single family home.
Interesting, because that would be like, you know, a lot of times those Airbnbs, you get the whole house, and there'll be a whole house here. You can walk down to this cool downtown little area, and that would be what my take would be on the intent of that. But
well, it would be not dissimilar to the current provision, you know, whatever people can do in their single family districts already.
okay.
But you raise a good point. That's something that perhaps we should think about in the future are short-term rentals and whether they're appropriate, if they need any sort of regulation and things of that nature.
Okay.
Councilwoman Phillips, do you have anything?
Mute Kathy.
Nothing.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
just,
I got a
Oh.
question for Jill.
Mhm.
Jill, if they have a, it's just a business now, can they add a home behind it? Can you add on to that building to make a home behind it?
If they were able to meet the setback standards for that property and provide the parking and comply with the live work standards, they
Yep.
potentially, but it seems unlikely in most of these lots because they're really not very deep. It was one of the challenges in this area with the home as it existed was the ability to add in parking and then accommodate for some of the stormwater improvements that were needed. So I mean, in theory, it's possible, but in practice, it's probably not very likely.
So what do you see as benefits for changing this?
I think it recognizes that there are those unique structures in the B1 districts that are the single family homes and provides for their continued existence, regardless of what's in them, that the buildings would be able to be filled and used. And really, that's important because we don't want to see empty buildings anywhere in the community. And if it's something that is compatible with the nearby uses, which I think this would be, then that's a good thing. I think in terms of the live work, it just adds a little bit more flexibility. For example, in one of these homes where they could just use the downstairs portion, you know, some of them are 2-story, the upstairs portion becomes a residential area and the downstairs portion is their business space. That may be giving some people some additional flexibility with reusing those structures.
If they wanted to change the front lawn to a parking lot, they'd have to do what?
Well, it would all have to go through site plan review with Planning Commission.
Okay, thanks.
is there anyone here from the Planning Commission that would like to address this? Because I'm gonna read what it says in our agenda today. It says zoning amendment, residential uses, B1 district. The Planning Commission discussed the request at its meeting on February 9th, 2021, and opted to postpone a decision and asked to study the request further and provide additional options for consideration. Options were provided at the meeting on March 9th, 2021, and a public hearing was held on April 27th, 2021. At this meeting, the Planning Commission recommended adoption of the amendment by City Council. So my question is, what were the concerns that planning had initially that made them want to study further? And then what did you bring about from that study that made them feel that this is a sound decision?
I think we had some additional language in the original proposal that was a little bit of an expanded residential component and also there was some concern maybe by some of the planning commissioners that this was very specific to one use. So a couple of the planning commissioners expressed concern that we were amending the ordinance just for a couple of properties. The scope then was narrowed down to really just saying not all single family, and not just new single family homes, but really recognizing that there are specific single family residence buildings that are in existence, and to allow those to continue their structure rather than forcing them to be torn down so that they could meet the standards of the ordinance, that there was some legitimacy in that. I think the concern originally was that maybe buildings would be torn down and single family homes would be erected. And that's not really likely, but it was something that seemed like it wasn't consistent with the intent of the business district, the B1 district. And so those were really the changes. We're narrowing the scope to just the single family homes that were in existence, that were essentially non-conforming, to allow them to continue regardless of whether they had changed to a commercial use or not, to allow those to continue, and then the live work. And it was really just the narrowing down of those two things.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any other questions for Jill?
Yeah, I'd like to see us do a workshop on this so we can get more detail than just throwing it out one meeting.
Okay, Jill, is this something we could add to our joint meeting that we have?
We can, absolutely. So I'm going to go back to the map and show you that, because there's just those couple of areas where this applies. Are there specific, if we do talk about it at a joint meeting, is there additional information that council members would like to see so that we're prepared?
I'll have to think about that, send you an email.
Okay.
Well, keep in mind, this is just the first reading.
Oh,
And to that end, our workshop will be before the potential second reading. So, so I move the proposed zoning amendment for residential use B1 district be entered into first reading.
Would anyone support?
Sorry, I'll support that.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm going to create a sign.
A green light. Okay, Michelle, that was supported by Councilmember Moffett, or sorry, made by motion. Motion was made and passed. Let's vote.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
No, not at this time.
So the first reading of the proposed zoning amendment for residential uses in the B1 district has passed. We will incorporate it in our upcoming joint city council planning zoning meeting and bring it back before council for the second reading. Thank you very much, Jill, for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So the next thing on the agenda will be a presentation on the findings from the community budget survey, which is that online survey that Nick and Mike and the team at City Hall put together for us. I believe Nick Stepnitz, our assistant to the city manager, is going to give us a brief overview and show the results of that study. Nick?
Absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen real quick and pull up the PowerPoint. Can everyone see?
Yeah.
Awesome. So on May 10th, we released our budget survey to the public, and we were able to get 259 responses in the last 8 days. And so I'm just going to provide you guys the data in the form of some charts and diagrams that you guys can look at. We have every intent to release a more comprehensive report to both council and the public later at this time, but we just wanted to get this information to you guys as soon as possible. So we're expecting a report before the June 1st meeting. When I'm going through some of this data, it's pretty straightforward. If you guys have questions, please feel free to interrupt or wait to the end and I can always go back to something. So I'm going to begin now. So the first couple questions were regarding the demographics of who was participating in the survey. And so as you can see, of the 259 responses, we had 248 were residents and then 11 residents and business owners. And then if you look at the age, we covered nearly every age group pretty well and representatively. The following questions were how long they've been living in within the city. And again, I would say this is pretty representative of time of living within the city. So we were able to get feedback from people who've been here for just under a year, and then of course our lifelong residents of 20 plus years. And then you can also see on the bottom that their community rating based on the 4 options, that information below from the number of responses, and also a chart to as a figure, so you guys can see that as well. So the first main question regarding services within the city was having the participant rank their program or service by importance. And so each participant selected which 8 they thought was more important to them. And so after getting the results on the right, you can see the average ranking of what the participants deemed to be most important. And so on the top, fire emergency management was ranked as the most important, and then communications and marketing would be the bottom. And I can leave this up for just a brief moment if you guys want to take a quick look at see where everything is. So next, there were 20 questions regarding the programs and services, but more specifically, and participants answered whether they thought they were extremely important, very important, somewhat important, not too important, or had no opinion. And throughout this, some of the numbers may not add up. Some people didn't answer every one, so they might not add up to 259, but these are the results that we have. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to directly go through and give the data of each one, but like I said, I will leave this up for a little bit if everyone wants to soak in the data and information. And just to explain this chart real quick, so the blue is extremely important, yellow is very important, green somewhat important, and then the orange not too important. And a few of the questions have a lighter blue shade that is no opinion. And so it just shows the number of people that answered based on those 5 responses. This is the next set of questions. And as you can see, as we're looking through the data, most questions were answered with very important to extremely important. So I noticed after a quick analysis of the data that our community is very pro-government service and rely on our services for them to make their life better. So this is the third set of questions that you can look at this data. Oh, I apologize. That would be the fourth set. My apologies. And so moving on, one of the questions was, what services would you like to see effort funding increased? And so this was an open-ended question. And I went through each response and I pulled the ones that were most frequently responded. And I just made a little word cloud to show what our residents deem to be the most important to them and where they would like to see the primary of our funding and budget go. And so as you can see, everyone's major concerns are always roads and infrastructure, downtown development, and of course, the emergency services. And so another question that we had was, how would you be willing to pay for your priority services? And as you can see, nearly 50% of the participants answered as a decrease from other services and so on. The 7% of other was open-ended as well, and people were able to provide ideas, state however they did. And so those open-ended answers will be part of the report that you guys have before June 1st, as well as the other open-ended questions, which were what specific programs would you like to see the city working on, and additional comments. And so for both of those open-ended questions, we had over 150 responses for each. And so I didn't think it would be necessary to have all of those to be read during this quick presentation. So that'll be available as well in the final report, which is again to you guys before June 1st. And most of the feedback was really constructive and positive. And based on my understanding of everything, I think the community is really excited to see where we can improve and how we can continue making Clawson better. And so I believe that is the end. And if you guys, I'll leave this up if you guys want to look back at anything or have any other questions.
Thank you, Nick. Very nicely done. I'd like to know if anyone has any questions for Nick regarding this little survey. Okay, well, thank you. We'll look forward to getting that more comprehensive report with the comments and additional information. And we thank you for taking this on for us and getting a snapshot of what our community thinks on these items at this time. Always helpful to know.
Of course, I just want to state that all this information will be available to you guys as soon as it's done, and of course to the public under the finance department page. So again, before June 1st, I've said that multiple times, my apologies. And I would like to state that this survey was intended to, of course, get feedback for this upcoming fiscal year budget, but more comprehensively, how we can utilize some of the ARP funding that we have to use. And so we can plan proactively of where our residents would like to see us allocating some of that funding. And then, of course, for future projects, and as well to see how the survey process works within Clawson, as we intend to have a larger and more time-consuming comprehensive survey by the end of this year or early next year. So at this time, I am all done, and thank you for your time.
I got a question. Can the citizens still put in the survey?
Yes, the information or the survey is still available to the public. We will likely be closing that at some point this week, and I'll update the information as more responses come in, but I don't believe we've had another response in some time. And again, this was just a preliminary survey, and we'll have a more comprehensive one in the next couple months.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
So
Thank
the
you
next
again.
item on the agenda is a public hearing. A public hearing to solicit comments on the following proposed fiscal year, July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 budget items and millage rates, which includes 1, general operating millage rates, 2, rubbish collection and disposal millage rates, 3, additional garbage and rubbish collection and disposal millage rates, 4, the combined city budgets, 5, capital improvement plan, 6, an additional general operating millage, 7, downtown development authority district millage, 8, Blair Memorial Library millage. This public hearing will provide an opportunity for council to solicit comments on the proposed draft budget. You can find the proposed budget right here on screen. And the proposed millage rates are, Mike will share them with us as well, I think. So Mike, I'm gonna give this to you.
Before you open it up to the public, but just to let you know, Kelly and I presented to you a balanced budget this evening. To give a brief overview, personnel costs rose slightly due to union contractual obligations and cost of living rates. Property taxes are projected to be similar to last year. Millages are not being changed at this time. Clearly they are a little bit because of the Headley rollback will affect them some, but those will be ratcheting back, as I'll get to that slide. Tax values of homes did go up. Debt service is funded as part of this budget as a requirement. Listed capital improvements, however, none are being proposed due to the budget constraints in this, what you'll see. We will need a decision separate to this to decide on how you want to fund those capital items that we'll get to later. It is a balanced budget with no plans to utilize our fund balance other than pulling a projected $50,000 to fund updates at the rent department. Not me. Thank you. Yes, it is a balanced budget, like I stated, with no plans to utilize our fund balance other than pulling $50,000 to fund updates at the Renshaw apartments that we own. We're just kind of pulling that funds. As I went over there, we talked to our person who handles all the things, stated that we need some flooring issues, new doors, potentially gutters, some other items that are kind of lacking in their area. So we do own those, and it's good to have a good building for our residents there. Fund balance at the start of this budget was projected at 2.9 million, and it is projected to be, again, projections, to be in the upcoming fiscal year around 4.3 million. So we will be adding to our fund balance based on this balanced budget. Of course, because of COVID, revenues have been impacted severely, and no one is, if we all had a crystal ball, no one is truly sure how COVID will continue to affect our economy in this upcoming year. Again, this is a balanced budget, and I want to give credit to our finance director, Kelly Rao, and fellow department heads for working through this process. Of course, it hasn't been the perfect situation, but they've rose to the challenge, and I believe we've presented a great budget to you this evening. And as a final reminder, just as a preface, you can approve the budget this evening as presented. Of course, you're not required to wait. We only provided the opportunity to extend it until June 1st. The only changes that would be discussed for future would be, again, how to pay for those capital items. I just wanted to preface all that statement before I guess you open it for the public hearing if anyone is wanting to speak on behalf. I can slide through to specific departments if you would like, or whatever you would like this evening.
Yeah, why don't we run through the slides real quick, and then we'll do the question and answer, because maybe some questions will be addressed during the slides.
Oops. My camera there. So that's the right there, 5.3 million is the projected property tax. So it's gone down a little bit because of the rates that are going on. Again, projections, once we finally get the items, you'll see general. When it's unassigned, I know that question comes up a lot. It's just because there are no specific departments. They're coming in as it's assigned, and then these are the revenues that we're getting. You will see in here, we have some of the state shared revenue. The 1.169, that right there is the ARP money that is showing us coming in as revenue, as the projection that we're going to get. I believe we're finalizing the details. As I've been on numerous calls, I was just on one actually prior to this meeting with the county commissioners. We're still not sure of the exact dates and when we're getting the money, but we know that we will be receiving it in 2 payments. We believe both within this upcoming fiscal year, but dates are kind of there, but we put that in there as the projection that we are going to be getting that. Some of these items are general maintenance that we've done. We haven't really, we tried to keep a lot of things status quo. As again, because of COVID, we were not sure exactly how things would kind of go this year. And it's better to be a little bit just status quo with some of these items. Admin charge, basics, things like that. Again, this was the similar budget that was presented at the workshops. When we finally went through everything and assessed all of it, we did realize that we were in a deficit, so we had to make some minor changes, a couple things, and that was the. But we were able to present you a balanced budget, just as a reminder. But the majority of the items that you saw at the budget workshop were there, and if the majority of the decrease values were based in capital, which will be in a separate item, I believe, as I get down. So this is the nuance of salaries for each department. So you have city council, what your budget is, the city manager. We did put a placeholder still again in there. You'll see that kind of double with that's the ARP money, if you see that amount there too. We have election service. Again, this is very similar. The attorney retainer, city hall costs. I don't know if there's a specific department you want to go to, but just this is all kind of the high level, just the cost to do work with our personnel and staff and software and seminars, workshops, operating supplies, those things like that. That's for the accounting division. Order review. Again, this has been available out on the website. It was provided in the packet as well. I was not provided any questions prior to it, so Treasurer, city clerk. If I'm going too fast or too slow, let me know. That's the police department. Further. And then we did, the one item that we did do is we actually separated code enforcement into its own. That was kind of one of the change. That was always under building, and then it's kind of under the police department, but we realized it was better to have its own department. So that is one change from, I guess, prior years. Again, just to have the cost center there is built in, so you know that what is actually allocated to code enforcement. And then fire department, building. And this is just, I don't know. So planning development, professional fees, that would be for city planner. That question comes up. Salaries, so DPW, this is generally speaking for the main department, but there are multiple departments under the Department of Public Works that you'll see for roads and sewer. So they're separated under those with the salaries. As Kelly has done a lot of work with Matt and Trevor to make sure, and Stacy and our payroll companies to make sure everything was going to the right cost center for proper tracking. Again, senior services, that's for the senior department. We are anticipating, again, providing services to Clawson Youth Assistance this year, same amount. Recreation. Museum. There's our healthcare costs. The other item that you'll note is the cable has changed because now Ken is taking over. So that is going to be kind of a double, because this handles our Granicus system and then also his services, whereas the prior employee, Dave, that was under part-time. So you see that as a change from last year. And again, the franchise fees will help offset those costs. We have transfers that go out. And then this is where the original recommended, this is where the capital items, which we'll get to a little bit down. As you see, we're recommending removing them because we were seeing that this should be approved by whatever decision you make as council, of course, with any feedback you receive of how you want to fund that, whether it's through fund balance, through the ARP funds, as we get down to that rate. So I don't know how nuanced you want to get into this, but this again was presented at the last two meetings. It's been available. Do any of you have any specific questions before we move to the public?
I have no questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilmember Sampson?
Get down to the capital.
Councilwoman Phillips, do you have any questions?
I don't really have any questions other than I just saw this today, or because I've been out of town, and it's very hard for me to follow with him rotating the screen and following the transcript, the closed caption also. I can't do both. So I guess I'm confused, and I just need more time to be able to look this over.
That's fair. Councilwoman Moffett.
I'm just gonna get down to the.
And so I guess, so Mike, that's why we can delay approving this till next week. That's the extension that you talked about, to give everyone some time to, open a bottle of wine and read it, right?
Correct, if you so choose. Kelly and I spoke and said, of course, by the recommendation does not mean that you cannot approve it tonight, but we wanted to give you that opportunity. In speaking with Mr. Nushai, that the way we worded the resolution, that is the next agenda item, is to allow that continuance to then approve the final adoption at June 1st, if that is your decision.
So my question is, so all of the capital, back on that page that had the capital improvement stuff, everything's thrown out the window. So no roads, no city hall improvement, everything's out the window.
There were, I believe, just a couple like just the senior thing. This is where, so on this page is where we're going to it. So this is where the discussion will have to be, the decision rather, is to how you want to fund it. We have the money, it's just where you want to pull the money from.
So sorry to interrupt. When you say we have the money in savings
In fund balance, yes, that's in essence the savings.
And so if we were to pull it, then that's where we would get an unbalanced budget, because right now, go ahead and stop me if I'm wrong.
No. Currently, the budget is balanced. We have an outstanding projection of $4.3 million in fund balance. So if we look at that, if Kelly wants to chime in, while reviewing, there we go. So basically what we're presenting with capital improvement costs would be 1.89 million, of which 72. So if you see, so this would only be the decision of what we want to do is either use fund balance, use the reserve funds, or the grants that we're getting, pay as you go, increase operating millage. There are some options that you can do. The current budget you see before you is balanced. It won't be affecting that. It's what is the decision to pay for those things, to utilize some ARP money, or to pull from the fund balance, still leaving potentially, over $2 million in fund balance. But the budget itself that's been presented will still be balanced.
Gotcha.
So that's where the options for funding the projects would come from. These are the options that you have. Of course, we could always reduce costs, but you could save, again, by not doing anything, but utilizing the ARP. So this is the projections. So these were what you saw before that we pulled into its own category. So these were all of in discussions with staff, some of the items that have been brought up over the time that were part of capital. So I was able to get final notes from our engineering firm to do the reconfiguration for just the police station for the locker rooms. It would be 231. You have a question, I'm sorry.
So we have some legal obligations to do certain infrastructure work. Is that what you've pulled out, or did you leave that in? The legal?
There were some items, I think we needed to get direction as to where, I think it was these other bigger ticket ones. I believe that was part of the budget already.
Okay, so that was accounted for in the balance thing.
Yes, that was, as far as the settlement goes, yes. These are for the long-term asset management plan, like the clean and CCTV and the sewer rehab. Those are the larger ones. But these are the things that were discussed during our meetings that I had with the department heads. So 231 would be the cost again for the police station that we are it's been a need for a while, and now we're definitely seeing it with the new female officer coming aboard. The fire suppression, I was able to get that question came up from Councilmember Sampson, got the quote for that for the new server room, would be that cost. And then the server would be that, mail machine that we're trying to get, the new patrol vehicle items, tasers, radio equipment that the fire department is there. Again, and you can pull these items if you say that we want to move them to a different year, but this is what we wanted to present this evening, as these are the things that were discussed. And so bottom line is, if we used all of the ARP grant money for these projects, the difference would be $726,000. And so that would be the decision, is what would you decide to do, is to pull from the fund balance, which would still, if we did that, as I stated, I think it would still leave us with possibly over $3 million in fund balance in the savings, if you will. If Kelly wants to chime in with anything, I guess, before we move, hopefully I presented it.
Kelly Rao, the only item as far as ARP, as we get more clarification on what we can use it for, some of the general fund items may or may not be available to use ARP funds. So we would have to look at each one of those individually.
Yeah, I know that in talking just even with the county today, we know for sure that water and sewer you can use, but yeah, it's the other items that they're still trying to get clarity on.
I got some questions, Madam Mayor.
Let's hear them, Councilmember Sampson.
You're saying this is a balanced budget, Mike?
Yes.
With all was the ARP money in it? So if you take away the ARP money, it's not balanced, right? How do you know you're going to get it next year? Do you get a letter saying you're going to get that 1 point something for sure, or that's what you should get? You might get.
That's what we've heard from everyone, is what we're getting. It's what we're receiving. Again, the timeline as to when we're getting it, I don't. That's still.
That could easily be two. That could easily be 2 different years, right?
Could potentially, I suppose. Anything is possible. But
That's putting too much money in the thing with that. And do you got any expenses for that money that comes with it?
expenses?
Yeah, forgetting that money, any things we have to do with that money.
If we expend $750,000 or more in 1 year, then we'll have to do the single audit, which there would be a cost for that.
So can I interject? So that ARP funds, I budgeted in both a revenue account and an expenditure account. If we have to do a budget amendment because we don't get the full amount throughout the fiscal year, it would still be balanced. If we have to remove the entire amount of revenue and expenditure, it would still be balanced.
Do you get any backup for the full-time employees, how they're allocated?
I do have a spreadsheet, not with me. I can review that and submit it to anyone that would like to see it.
I'd like to see that.
Does that address all your questions, Councilmember Sampson?
The CIP plan, is that a function of the city manager? Is that a function of planning commission?
Clearly, we have not operated under the formal version of how we're doing that. And speaking with Jill at the next week at the joint workshop, it's a perfect opportunity. It's going to be on the agenda to discuss with the planning commission there as we present this approach to them as well. But yes, planning commission is involved with it, and next year we'll be following the procedure where we make sure that we have a chairperson involved with it as part of the planning commission, and that we're in the timeline in the winter time, January, February, going through the whole process appropriately. So we will still present this at the meeting next week to them, so they are involved, and you will both be there at the meeting to discuss these things.
Okay, so the CIP money and the ARP money, that's just a swag, huh?
I mean, these are projections. I don't believe they're that. I believe they're projections based on receiving information from our contractors. As far as these go, the ARP, that's what I've been told from both our Congress people, that's the amount we're going to get based on, because it's based on HUD numbers, just similar to CDBG funds. And so that is the projection that we're going to get. Again, until we see it, we don't know. It might be off a little bit, but that is the projection that I keep hearing that they're holding true to.
Okay.
I guess there's no answer. Thanks.
All right, were you finished, Councilmember Sampson?
Yeah, I hope I'm hoping you guys don't want to vote on this tonight, because it's a sliding scale here. The numbers aren't real numbers on a couple items that are big items.
Well, let's open up for public discussion, and then we can come back to whether or not we make a motion to approve or hold off for the next meeting. That's good. So Ken, I'd like to open up a public discussion for conversations on our upcoming budget, our proposed budget for July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. If anyone is interested in speaking, Ken will facilitate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, I might just have you unshare for the time being and maybe bring that up if needed. I just want to remind anyone that is in the meeting right now, we'll ask that you raise your virtual hand if you would like to speak. The way you do that, if you're on a computer, is by clicking on participants at the bottom. That will open up a dialog box, and from there you will find raise your hand. We did have a couple of phone callers. Your instructions are slightly different. Nope. The telephone callers are no longer in the meeting. Okay. So at this point, we will take computer callers. We do have a person with their hand raised. It looks like Susan Phillips. Susan, if you'd like to state your name and address for the record and then proceed with your comments.
Hi, this is Susan Phillips, and I've been in Clawson since 1978. And I just want to thank Mike, Nick, and Kelly for a very clear, transparent presentation of the budget and for soliciting our opinions in that survey. I thought that was a really good way to get us involved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we will throw it out to anyone else that may be interested in speaking again. We want to make sure that we address all the comments that may be out there. Again, if you'd like to speak, we ask that you raise your virtual hand, and you can do that by clicking on participants and then the respective raise your hand feature. If you don't happen to see that, if you only can see the mute button, feel free to unmute. We'll try to work with that if possible. Okay, we are not seeing any other comments at this time. Okay, I think there are no other comments at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan Phillips, for your comments. We appreciate them. Now, since this was a public hearing, if I'm not incorrect, there's nothing we need to do on this at this time. But when we proceed to number 11, which is new business, Councilwoman Sampson, we can address your concerns that you just stated.
You need a vote on closing the public.
Oh, okay. Thank you for keeping me honest on this one.
I will.
To make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we need a motion to close? We didn't motion to open it. Why would we need a motion to close? Rennis?
You have always in the past, technically speaking, because it's a public hearing, it's not, you don't move by resolution on account of this. It's not your motion. I think it makes sense.
A motion to close, we didn't motion to open?
I think you did. If you didn't do a motion to open the public hearing for the public, that was our mistake.
My fault.
So I move that we open it and then close public hearing on the budget.
I'll support that.
You can't.
I can.
No, you can't.
I believe I can.
No, you can't.
No, you can't.
City Attorney, am I allowed to second?
Yeah.
No.
Well, the mayor Mayor Scripture never did, but the mayor does technically have the same rights as every other member per our charter. So I think it's your pleasure, obviously, but I think you can.
Well, I will concede to someone else if they would like to, but if no one else actually cares to do it right away, then I have no problem saying I support that motion. Michelle, would you like to take a roll call?
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
This is just to open and close the public discussion, correct? Yes.
Councilmember Emerson,
Sure.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thank you for, oh, did it get everyone? I'm so confused. Sorry about that.
We can tell.
Okay, so we've had our public hearing and now we're going to move on to new business. The new business is consideration of approving the appropriation resolution based on the preliminary budget as submitted by administration with the authorization for the continuing resolution to extend the official adoption of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget at the June 1st, 2021 regular city council meeting. Now, the finance director and city manager will be present to discuss the preliminary budget as submitted. I would say we've done that, although if you have anything additional you'd like to add, go for it. We would love to hear more. And if not, if someone would like to make a motion.
I move the appropriation resolution based on the preliminary budget as submitted by administration with the authorized be submitted.
The authorization.
Okay, thank you. The authorization for the continuing resolution to extend the official adoption of the 2021-2022 fiscal budget year at the June 1st, 2021 regular council meeting be presented.
Would anyone like to support that? Again, I will support that for purposes of conversation. And do we have any would anyone like to make any comments regarding this?
Yeah, I'd love to say so about this.
I make a motion, so I go first, right?
Yeah, Councilmember Moffett.
Yep, I think that this gives everybody ample time to review and come up with their questions or concerns to be addressed at the next council meeting. And they need to be substantive questions, not general just casting aspersions on it. So we can have a substantive budget discussion with real, concerns, things that need to be changed and understanding. Gives everyone plenty of time to review it on their own.
Councilmember Sampson?
Yeah, I think this resolution is just like the federal government, the continuing resolution, because we couldn't meet a date. So we're going to go ahead and change the date so we all look good so we can say we met a date. We already missed the date. We already violated things in the charter. Changing the date to make the administration look good that they met all their stuff. Let's just drop this whole thing and we just get our budget when we get our budget, and then we can vote on it. All the other stuff's just fluff, and I'm not going to vote for fluff.
Councilwoman Phillips, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I personally don't see any reason for this. I can't even think of the word of it. For this motion, because it doesn't matter whether we vote yes or no. We still have to look through the budget, and all it's doing is just a matter of shuffling paperwork. So I don't want to vote on something that's just pointless. I mean, we're going to vote on June 1st anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
Can we ask Rennis the intention behind crafting this motion?
So it wasn't to match the federal government, to be perfectly honest with you, but that is probably a good way to explain it in many respects. I think that Kelly and Mike worked hard with respect to this. I think the way that they've crafted is appropriate. We can accomplish all the goals that we need to accomplish within the prescribed period of time by accomplishing this. We are permitted to do so, in my humble opinion. There's certainly better ways to do it, and down the road, I know that obviously Mike is coming into this moving ship. Has been a moving target. I imagine come next year, we're going to handle it a little different. We'll be a little better prepared, but this being the case this time around, I think there's nothing wrong with this per se.
Yes, Councilwoman Moffett?
Can I ask another question?
Please.
If we don't have a motion extending it, what's the consequence of doing that?
It would be a little tricky, obviously. Our situation would be a little tricky. I would recommend you do so. I think the recommendation, actually, let me take myself out of it. The recommendation of the administration is that we do so. I think it makes sense. I think it's appropriate. And I think it'll accomplish all of our goals.
Yeah.
So
we got 41 days or something like that. We got 30 days in June, and then whatever we got left in May. So there's plenty of times. I'm willing to, if we have to meet every day to get this budget done right, I don't have a problem doing that. I just don't want to let the people in Clausen think that we go ahead and pass and give ourselves a pass on this because we couldn't get things done on time. We started this, we should have been starting this back in, we had talked about it in September and October, and we should have started it back in March. All of a sudden we get crammed a week ago with the whole budget because nobody could get it done. So no, I'm not gonna vote for something to cover everybody. Just get it to us when you can get it to us. We've already violated the parts in the charter that were actual dates he should have had it done by.
So I have another question, Mr. Nishai. Obviously, there's an intention by some parties to punish.
I'm sorry. You started, you cut out for a briefest moment, and I don't know if
Okay, so obviously there's an intention from some parties here to punish people for not conducting themselves in the manner in which others would have preferred they had.
Oh.
Let me finish, please. So if there's any ramifications from not properly extending it this way, who would suffer the consequences of having done that? Would there, would someone come in and say, oh, they violated the charter and try and make a big deal about that? Or what are the consequences from not following the simple, proper procedures for extending it for the protection of everybody? Because anything else other than that just seems like a lot of showmanship.
I'll leave your comments to what they are. To address the question buried within, who would, which as I understand it is, who would come to complain if we somehow violated any portion of our charter with respect to this issue? Any member of our fair city, any citizen of Clawson would have standing to have a technical challenge of our violating the charter in this specific instance, right? Anybody would be able to raise the issue to the extent that, and this is not, I don't know that it's a pure no harm, no foul, because obviously we would have to, in such a scenario as we envision, we would have to defend, we would have to expend our time, money, resources, so on and so forth. So it wouldn't be no harm, no foul. But is there a hammer hanging over us when we don't do it? And as we comprehend that hammer to be usually in the regular circumstances when you violate something, no, not necessarily. But this, I think, would accomplish it. I think Mike and Kelly, provided a good rationale as far as accomplishing the tasks that we need to accomplish for the city, for the benefit of the citizens, as well as to do so within the within our means and within the meaning of the charter.
So by passing this, it's protecting the citizens, it's protecting the city, it's protecting, again, everybody against any potential litigiousness out there.
Budget is a projected, obviously, as a document projecting our finances into the next year. So the sooner the better. Could we do it within the timeline that Mike uttered above and beyond today? Of course. Could we do it under the timeline that Councilmember Sampson uttered, in the sense that's be here every day until you do so? Certainly this council can do that. That is entirely, but you could do so today, obviously, as well.
Right. So, but the most prudent course of action is to vote to give ourselves the extra time, as opposed to not setting a timeline.
I think the prudent course of action is whatever this fair council will elect to do come to vote.
Well, I'm questioning whether or not by refusing to extend the budget process that the city is being placed in a precarious position.
So I think, again, I agree that it ought to be done sooner rather than later. To address all the concerns that all of you have, that is obviously all the administration, I imagine, and now I'm speaking for Mike and Kelly and everybody else, all of us want to accomplish all the things that we need to accomplish as a city, and to provide you all the necessary information well in advance of any time required. Sometimes situations being what they are, it is not easy to do so. But I think this accomplishes it. And again, I agree, the sooner the better, but to satisfy all of you, absolutely, all your requests, certainly.
So we've addressed many issues over the past year dealing with the pandemic in non-traditional formats. I think it's unfair to punish administration for not being able to deliver something as timely as we perhaps may have wanted, when there is basically nothing that precludes us from agreeing with this tonight and then moving forward on it in the future. Nothing will be set in stone. I think we owe it to everyone to just move on at this point, make a decision, and not be on the little wheel going round and round again for the next month when there's no hard reason to do it. I understand you may have concerns and you want certain things addressed, but this process will not preclude any of those things from happening. That is my point. Kathy, did you raise your hand?
Yeah. I have a question to clarify my head. If we don't vote on this today, we're still voting on it June 1st. If we do vote on this today, we're still voting on it June 1st. We've already missed the dates. So what is another couple weeks? I'm not comfortable voting for anything until I get a chance to look these over better and maybe sit down with someone. And because like I said, I can't watch the closed caption and the sheets at the same time. So I got lost after the first, second, or third explanation. So I need to sit down with somebody and actually go over them. Mike or Kelly, if you are available, I would appreciate it. But I don't see any purpose in even voting on this when it doesn't make any difference one way or the other.
Well, we have a first and a second. Is that correct, Michelle? Yes, let's go ahead and take the vote, and it will fall where it falls.
We know where that's going.
Well, that's
I
our
know.
process anyways, unless someone's going to retract it. Councilwoman Moffett, do you plan on retracting your motion?
I do not.
Okay, then let's just proceed so we can move forward. Thank you. That cut out, so was that me?
Councilmember Phillips, I'm sorry.
No.
Councilmember Sampson,
No.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes, motion failed.
it did fail. So the next thing on the agenda would be discussion of the appointment process for the city council vacancy. Attorney Nushai, I'm just going to let you address this fully.
Thank you. So our charter is, speaks very little with respect to this process and the process of what occurs when there's a vacancy. As far as process is concerned, as you may have noticed in my letter, our charter section 4.31 states a vacancy in an elective office shall within 30 days after such vacancy occurs be filled by appointment by a majority of the members of council or the remaining members of council when the vacancy is in that body. And then the appointee will hold office until the next regular municipal election at which a successor shall be elected for the unexpired term of the office of the person in whose office a vacancy occurs. Then, obviously, that in and of itself is fairly plain. We're fortunate as well that our mayor's term is a 2-year term, which means that that position would be up for election come November. So this appointment will be filling this gap period to go from the time of appointment, and we are within the 30-day period still. And I think by my calculation, we would be even come next meeting. I have to look at my math on that one. As far as the process itself, that the 5 of you, the 4 of you design as you deem appropriate. The vote has to be public, obviously, has to be pursuant to the rules, to OMA rules and regulations. So other than that, it's your process. Council has utilized several different means in the past, different paths to vote. Sometimes just voting where one person was the favorite, voting for the one person, and other times it's voted on an ascending fashion, so to speak, going up to so that everybody could get a vote and see who would continuously get the votes to dwindle down to if it's 10 people, top 7, top 5, top 3, and then the final choice. That's certainly your pleasure as to how you design that. I imagine you're going to do so. Council moves by resolution, which is to say moves by way of motion. You'd be able to basically have a discussion among yourself to design how you would wish to vote for this. And then just based on the names that have come forth, be able to make a selection if you so deem appropriate.
What do we got to do for Mayor Pro Tem?
And you would have to elect, and my letter as well, thank you, council members, my letter as well, I think, dealt with that a little bit. You would have to select as well a mayor pro tem. I think there's a vacancy in that body at the moment that obviously Mayor pro tem Milan became Mayor Milan. And in the same way, in the same spirit, you would have the same process, I imagine, for going forward, except for that process will be from among the 4 of you or the 5 of you if you choose someone to replace the fifth seat.
So we can solve some of this. Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we appoint Kathy Phillips as Mayor Pro Tem. All I need is a second.
Can I second that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll second it.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah. I mean, even though it is for you, I think you're a member of the body, so I think you could.
You can do it.
I know, I was like,
I checked on it for you.
It feels like it ought to be iffy, but it isn't, I don't think so.
Any comments, or we can go to a vote?
I think she's a great person. Let's go to the vote.
it's only for 6 months.
Michelle?
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
No.
Councilmember Moffitt,
No.
Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Okay, that does not pass. I will in turn make a motion that we elect Susan Moffett for our Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Thank you. I'd also like to say Councilwoman Moffett has served very well for the past 3.5 years, and it would be an honor for her to be able to do this for her remaining 6 months on council, unless of course she chooses to run again. So with that, if anyone else has any comments, otherwise we will entertain a vote. Michelle?
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
No.
Councilmember Sampson.
No.
Okay, well, I
Oh,
guess
dear.
we will address this once we find the lucky number 5 through our process. And that will take care of this item for today. The next item would be consideration of approving the contract modification between the City of Clawson and Hartwell Cement Company.
Wait a minute. Aren't we going to finish the discussion on how we're going to do the, where do the applications go for people who want to be on the council? Where, I would make a motion that we notify the citizens to send all applications, use the same application as we use for boards. Send them to Mike. He'll compile them all. If we get 10, we go into a multi-voting system by, like Ren's just said, eliminating give us your top 3, give us your top 2, give us your number 1. That way everybody will have a chance to vote on everybody. I'll make that motion. So,
Anyone have any questions? Councilwoman Moffett, do you have a comment for that?
I got to get a second first.
I'll second that.
So do the people who made the motion and second want to make a comment?
I think that's the fairest way. I think if all of us come with 4 different candidates, nobody's ever going to get chosen. So I think everything should go to the city manager. The board package or the council package just before it, we'll get all the candidates. If there's anywhere from, we're hoping there's not 1, but if there's 10 of them, then we go through the multi-voting, which is the best way to eliminate, and everybody feels good because they got a part of every person. And eventually when you get down to the very last person they're picked, everybody's voted for them somewhere or another to get them through that process. And we'll have buy-in from all of us then. There won't be just 4 of us bringing 4 different people and fighting among us.
I want to clarify the multi-voting, because first you said everyone votes for their top 3.
Well, if you get 10 people, we'll go through the thing, and Rennis could say, pick your top three. So you need to work on your top three then.
So
Then you'll be down to 5 or whatever, and then you work on. He'll have to figure out mathematically how many is the next one. So it may be, give us your top 2 people, and then the third vote will be give us your top 1, and we'll be voting really 2 people by that time, and we'll pick our top person, and we just all live with what we picked.
So the way I'd prefer that we do it is we vote on all 10 and whittle it down that way.
You do. You vote on all 10. You vote on all of them all the time.
Yeah, that's not what you said. You said we're going to give our top 3. So
to yourself.
Vote on all 10.
In your mind, you have to think of, I got to vote for my top 2 people to make sure they make it. So you pick two or 3 people out of the 10 and say, I want to make sure these make it to the next round. Then the next one, you say, I got to make sure these 2 people make it to the next round. One of them I need. And then as you work through the thing, you're always picking that person that you really want.
So to clarify and use specific terms, the way we're going to vote is however many candidates are presented, each candidate will be presented for full council vote, and we will continue with full council vote until we have 1 candidate standing.
No, so if we have 10 people and 4 of them don't get any votes, they're off. Then you take whatever the 6 remaining and you vote for 2 of the people.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying in essence.
You vote for 2 people on that 6, and then the next round we got 3. So it's really like I got to vote for 2, and then you pick 2 of them people and make sure you vote for them, and you work your way through it, and eventually you'll find mathematically we've all voted for the winner.
Exactly how Rennis described it.
Yep. He knows how to do it.
I think, I think where the hang up, because it is what I had in mind, but I think where the hang up is because Lou is saying, out of 10 people, if we have a pool of 10 people, you're saying top 3. And mathematically, that becomes a little problematic as far as voting for everybody. I think you would whittle it down a lot slower from the larger number. So top 10, if it's 10 people, you do top 8 first or top 7, just a larger number. I think mathematically, then you end up voting for everybody.
Yeah. You know how to do it, I can tell. It's just multi-voting. It's perfect.
Now, would we do that vote during a council meeting?
Yep, it's got to be open.
So I would suggest that we don't do it by name, that we assign a number.
That works perfect.
Well, you can't. That's a little problematic, unfortunately, because of the OMA, and it makes a lot of sense. In any other facet of our lives, of course, we would want to do that because we feel like we're betraying those, those that we don't vote for. But the open meetings, that it would be, I think, technically a violation if we were to do that.
And then let's use the names. I have no problem.
I would also we have a cutoff several days prior to the council meeting that we receive the applications, so that if any of us wanted to reach out and have a conversation with any of the candidates individually, that we have the opportunity to have those conversations with them. So if the meeting is on, say, the meeting's on June 1st, applications need to be submitted by May 27th. And then if they're sent with the council packet or sent to all of us for review by the 28th, that gives us the whole weekend and several days for, if we want to reach out, like I said, talk to any of the candidates, if we don't know them or get a feel for them or whatever, that we have the opportunity to conduct those conversations as each individual council member sees fit.
Yeah, thanks. That's exactly what I said. We get them in the board package or the council package on that Friday, and you have the whole weekend to talk all the way through Monday to call whoever you want. Of course, I'd want to call them all too. So
They may not want to do it.
I'd be amazed. I'd be amazed at 10. So, but tell the citizens that this is their time to get involved. This is a great time. So let's vote on this and see what happens.
They only have to do 6 months, and if they don't like it, they're done. Or they can sign back up.
Yep.
Okay, Michelle, let's do a vote.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips.
Will you read the motion again? I'm sorry.
I have it that we, that all applications be submitted to the city manager, Mike Smith, with a multi-voting system process at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought it was. Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. And should we also add a deadline date for those applications?
I was going to say, I move that we make May 28th, is it the May 27th as the due date for all applications to be submitted to the city manager.
Okay. Can you also add to use the same form as we use for boards? Because that didn't come out in the first.
Yes. So to restate it, that I move that the due date of May 27th be the cutoff for all candidates to submit the standard board application form to be considered for consideration.
I'll support that.
Okay, any other comments? If not, let's take another roll call, Michelle.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yep.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've established the policy for the very interested, happy people who are going to want to apply to join this board for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
We will welcome you.
I got one more question. Mike, can you take emails from anybody that's requesting and send them a copy of the board or the candidate form? Or tell us to put it on the website so everybody knows how to get a hold of a candidate form.
Yes, Nick and I will work on getting that out and using all of our social media and all the approach for that.
Maybe even put a PDF out there. They can just download it.
Yes, I believe it is already out there, so we'll make sure that it's in a main page where everyone can see it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue on our agenda. Consideration of approving the contract modification between the City of Clawson and Hartwell Cement Company for the upcoming 2021-2022 sidewalk replacement program. Hartwell has been the City of Clawson cement contractor since 2014. They have provided a great product, and this year they are proposing a 6.6% price increase. Many local communities are experiencing high single-digit percentage increases on concrete pay items yearly as well. It is the recommendation to stay with Hartwell and to approve the modification of their current contract to extend it for the upcoming 2021-2022 sidewalk replacement program. Would anyone like to address this? Mike, do you have anyone that wants to talk on this?
Superintendent and I discussed this along with the city engineer, the other Mike Smith, and we talked about to extend this. Hartwell's worked well with us for this upcoming year. They're kind of waiting and seeing as they know our city well. They don't have to have some of the other things that other companies have to have on site, that we trust the way that they do the product. We've checked with other local communities. Of course, they're experiencing high single-digit percentage increases as well. So with both of their recommendations, we feel for the next upcoming year to continue with them through the sidewalk program, that it will be funded out of the bond proceeds that the voters voted on.
Thank you. Someone like to make a motion?
Mayor, I move the contract modification extension between the City of Clawson and Hartwell Cement Company for the upcoming 2021-2022 sidewalk replacement program be approved.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments? Councilwoman Phillips, do you have any questions for Mike?
No.
Okay, Councilwoman Moffett? How about you, Mr. Sampson?
Councilman Sampson doesn't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Michelle, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Then we will continue our contract with, for the sidewalk program with Hartwell Cement Company as in previous years. And that moves us to the next item on our agenda, which would be old unfinished business. Does anyone have any old unfinished business we need to address this evening? I'll take that as a no, and that's a great answer.
List of bills. List of bills.
Oh, the bills, darn. Where were you, Mr. Councilmember Sampson? You were supposed to remember the bills. That's your thing. So would anyone, I'm assuming you have a motion to make regarding the bills since it was your idea to move it to this point in the evening.
No, I have questions on the bills. I have no intent to motion anything.
Oh,
I
okay.
move that we approve the bills as presented.
Thank you, Councilmember Moffitt.
I'll support.
Thank you. Councilmember Moffitt, do you have any questions regarding the bills?
I do not, I guess, well, the comment that, again, the bills have already been paid when they're presented, so not approving it has no effect. Obviously, there's always opportunities to ask questions. However, they've been paid, so.
Councilwoman Phillips? No. Councilmember Sampson?
Yeah, Mike, the Giffords Webster, that $9,000 expenditure, what's that for?
I'm gonna have to check the detailed bills. I didn't have them in front of me. I mean, Jill's on. I don't know if she can address that.
I am still on, but I'm not, I don't have the invoices in front of me at the moment. But I do know that we're working on the clear zoning conversion. We're working on the master plan amendment, and we're doing some additional work with zoning amendments and sustainability framework plan. So there are a number of things that we're working on. Some of them are also site plan reviews. Those development reviews are pass-through fees that get covered by the development applications themselves. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It doesn't.
Sampson.
No.
No. So would it be appropriate for Mike to provide you that information at a later time, Councilmember Sampson?
Oh, I hope he would.
Okay, that's great. Then Michelle, let's take a roll call vote.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
No, because I don't have the answer.
Okay, thank you. We have agreed to go ahead and pay our bills that are already paid. And we have also agreed that Mr. Smith will provide Councilmember Sampson with the question regarding the $9,000 Giffords Webster charge on this current list of paid bills. So with that, let's move on to public comments for items that are not on the agenda. If you are with us this evening and would like to add a question, give a compliment to this great council and these great city employees that serve you on a day-to-day basis, please raise your hand and make yourself known. And again, Ken Milburn will give you the process to join our public discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, just a reminder to anyone that would like to speak at this point, we just ask that you raise your virtual hand. You can find the virtual hand by clicking participants on the bottom of your screen. And then once the dialog box opens up, you'll see the feature there. We also have, looks like a phone caller or two. If you would like to speak in public comment, you'll need to press *9 on your keypad, and that will raise your virtual hand. Okay. I am not seeing any hands raised at this time. Give it just one more moment here. I think there are no hands raised at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. And thank you for everyone who's participating by watching our meeting this evening. We appreciate your being here with us. Next item on the agenda would be the city attorney's report.
Thank you. Good evening again. And I just had a couple of items. I submitted a few of these ahead of time, as is habit, just for you to have something to review. I gave you a litigation update. These are by way of my letter, and these are all the matters that we are currently handling on behalf of the city. For the most part, they're minor. So as you notice on my letter, we have Clausen Barbecue Dreams LLC versus the city, Christian Pillar LLC versus the city, North Crooks Road LLC, and VGD Capital LLC versus the city. These are property tax petitions that are currently pending before the tax tribunal. They're challenging in one way or another their effective tax rate, and we're handling that portion. At least one of them is has been, we filed a stipulated order dismissal. The court should be entering at any moment. We think we have a resolution, a potential settlement for minimal amounts, which will be within city manager authority purview for one other case. The others are waiting hearing dates from the tax tribunal. We anticipate receiving those shortly. I included in here Helm versus City of Clausen, which is one of the, that's the 2014 flood litigation lawsuit. That, we, as council knows, obviously the community knows, that matter was settled. All the community settled that case. The reason I listed it in here, because we do have an ongoing obligation or a continued obligation for to do certain work with respect to our system, our infrastructure, that was mandated or agreed upon by council as well as all the other communities. Our portion was fairly minimal with respect to that, with respect to what we need to do. Nonetheless, it's something that we must do, and submit an affidavit probably from either the city manager or the superintendent of public works once it's completed. It's still outstanding. We can use some of the prior work that we've done to the system. I was in contact over the course of several weeks with Matt with respect to what we could use and we could not use. Nonetheless, I think that being the last item on this particular case, I think I kept it there just for that. And I also, obviously 165 Hendrickson, we're not representing you on that matter. Mr. Kevin McGinnis is, and I know that he provided some sort of an update to the residents recently. We're not handling the matter, but I know that he's obviously at any time ready for a question. Yes, Kathy, I'm sorry. I see that you have your hand up.
He did supply that one letter to the residents, and 2 of the residents tried calling him, and he does not return phone calls.
And, I've sensed the frustration from you and over the course of time. Obviously, council has the right to select their attorney. If at any point in time it boils over and you don't think that we're getting enough of a response, obviously you have a choice to make at any given time. All I would need, our office wouldn't be able to handle, because everybody in my office obviously would have a conflict. But right. I could certainly provide a couple of additional options if you so choose.
Well, I'm going to try to reach out to him one more time.
Okay, and I'm here at any time, obviously. Thank you. Additionally, obviously I submitted a letter to you with respect to the vacancies. You've handled that one. Thank you. The last letter, Council Member Sampson raised the issue of the subpoena, I think at our prior meeting. So I wanted to give you some background information with respect to that, slight as it may have been. The subpoena that we received and that I've included pursuant to request, actually, I hope it was added to the agenda. I'm not sure whether it was or not, but the subpoena is a subpoena to the city pursuant to litigation that's occurring in Wayne County currently with respect to something technically unrelated to us. It is related to us in the sense that it deals with all, a multitude of communities, but not with us specifically. We receive subpoenas like this all the time. I don't, at this particular point in time, nothing is coming out of it. I think the subpoena does address what may be a soft spot for our fair city. But that's not something that I will address today. I'm collecting some information and schedule some meeting with Mike and others in the administration to figure out what if anything may be our soft spot as far as our water billing and things of that nature. I'll have that information. I'll probably be able to more fully brief you on any such issues with respect to this subpoena and beyond, basically the meaning behind it come next meeting. And lastly, I promise you that we had talked over the course of several meetings. We had talked about council role training, things of that nature. And I've spoken with Mike with respect to this as to how to properly frame and actually do this, something that may be meaningful to the 4 of you, hopefully to the 5 of you coming soon, and it not be just a simple training like those MML trainings that sometimes can be a little, can be not the greatest thing ever. So I'm still working on that. Part of my, part of what I'm doing with respect to, I'm creating a basic outline document for council and council members to utilize, to have and utilize with respect to basically the role of council and your individual roles and your role as part of the body, as well as the delineation and the distinction between your roles and that of the city manager. Over the course of time, obviously there's been some issues in this council, as there are on all councils. This is not unique by any stretch of the imagination. It is because these things are not sort of cut in stone. They're not clearly delineated. There are certain delineations, but this is, it can be a moving target on account of some of the issues and how they present themselves to a community such as this one. So I think I've been over the course of the last few weeks, I've been working on this document. I'm going to continue working a little more to make sure that it's something, direct and to the point, yet somewhat comprehensive, so they can have some meaning to the 5 of you, and you can review it, and hopefully it can be useful going forward. I think I would like to say as well that one of the comments in prior meetings was, and this is not me, this is me giving advice as an attorney, not necessarily giving you advice individually. You don't need my advice. But one of the comments was with respect to the back and forth, and the fact that that there's been there's some quote unquote vitriol or some harsh communication within this council. I think I'm privy to this council, and I'm privy to other councils that I appear before. I think I can speak for just about every attorney that ever represented any council when I say that there's nothing wrong with having a healthy, vigorous debate on the issues, as far as this council is concerned, as far as any council is concerned. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again and forever into the future, to the extent that we have a delineation such as tonight, a 2-2, meaning on every vote, on several votes you may not have agreed. Actually, that's a good thing, that's healthy, that's democratic, it's the proper way to do things. I would never see an issue with respect to that. The issue would be if we ever get to the point where we have 5-0 votes on every single vote that comes before council. That's problematic. So long as you disagree, I, as your attorney, am supremely happy, because I know that democracy is working. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I got a question.
That's it.
You're putting together them training for us. So you're going to do any OMA training? We are all leading down a really bad street here. Everybody wants to send out information, one email to the whole council, and then 5 or 6 other people. We got a few council people that keep hitting the button and replying to all. And that's a violation of the OMA, because it's soliciting information from people. It's soliciting a comment back from people. And I have 7 examples of when that was done. So we need training on OMA, so the other council people don't put other council people in a bad way by hitting the thing, saying a comment, and then somebody goes back and answers them, and right away, it's definitely a violation of the OMA.
Happy to include it, obviously, and we are bound by OMA rules and
yep.
Some things that we wish to do and we wish to accomplish in polite society don't necessarily work. Perfect case in point, obviously, Councilmember Phillips' point, the appropriate way to do it in any other setting, to have a vote on any 10 members of our city wanting to put themselves through a public debate about their personas to whether they should be the 5th council member or not would be one that respects their privacy. Unfortunately, OMA rules being what they are, we can't do that, and we're bound by these rules. Some care is required in exercising those, particularly when it comes to emails and responses back and forth to emails. Unfortunately, case law tells us that they can create quorum, so some care is required.
I would suggest the city manager now, when he sends out information to the council, split it up into twos, or send 5 emails out, so we can just all have the same information and not be put on the thing when there's all the council and one of the other councilmen has to make some kind of a comment to solicit other comments. I just think it's better to send 5 different emails.
I disagree.
He doesn't have to send out 5 different emails. What he have to do, Mike, is blind CC so that it goes to all 5 of us. But if we reply, it only replies to you.
Whatever will work. That sounds like it'll work.
Blind CCing it. That's the way I send out. I can send out 100 emails with 1 email, and only one. It looks like I am the only one that got it.
Yeah. Well, that would work. And then if they hit reply all,
reply to that one person.
That would work for us. So Mike, can you make that change?
Of course.
What'd you say?
Of course, I will do that.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yeah, I just, Mr. Nusha, I just wanted a clarification. There was a comment made at the last council meeting that we were all named on a subpoena, and all of us, there's a subpoena with our names on it, and we weren't told about it, and you were hiding stuff from us. Can you clarify, was anyone's name from this council on that subpoena?
Thank you. No, nobody. This is a subpoena. So, the case as I referenced is General Mills Supply versus the Great Lakes Water Authority. So this is the Great Lakes Water Authority, handles, covers a few different municipalities. If I had to speculate, so to answer your questions directly, no, none of you, meaning the members of council, were subpoenaed individually. No member of administration was. The city was. As you know, the subpoena in this regard requires certain information. We have provided the information sought. Additional information has been required. I've been in contact with the attorney from the issued the subpoena, and we'll be providing certain other additional information that they require. To that end, I'm having a meeting with, we're scheduling a meeting with city administration to be able to collect all the required information, figure out everything they require so that we would appropriately address any and all issues sought. But as far as, us being subpoenaed, I mean, subpoenas like these come all the time, and they come in various forms for various reasons. Usually we get subpoenas, for example, in employment matters, as I indicated to you. They seek relevant information or information that may seek to support whatever claims are happening back and forth between the parties on whatever piece of litigation that may be. So we get them all the time. On the one hand, they're nothing to worry about. On the other hand, they do at times reveal soft spots that we may have in practices, as they've done, because of course we live and die by what prior administration, what we've done, what we as a city, I shouldn't parse it out, what we as a city have done in the past. And rules change, laws get updated, sometimes soft spots emerge. These can lead to that. So we don't know yet where we are with respect to this. It is very early to tell. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about at this particular point in time, but we should never let our guard down.
Susan, he did supply us with a copy of that.
Oh, I know, I saw it, but I didn't see my name on it. And there was the whole, we were all named on it. I mean, I looked at it, I didn't see my name on it. So since that was thrown out there that we were on the subpoena and no one was told, I just wanted to clarify for the listening audience that that was not the case.
Nothing further. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer, obviously.
I do have a question for you. Is it inappropriate to request that if someone has a question with bills or something on the agenda, that they make those requests known to the city manager prior to the meeting so that he has an opportunity to address them during the meeting so that we don't have to do this backtrack. Is that something we can request, require, ask, plead?
Well, I don't think
I'm asking our city attorney. Thank
I
you.
can give you a good reason why I asked.
I'm asking our city attorney first, and then you may reply.
Oh, I will.
I don't think you can necessarily require. You can certainly ask. You can't require because obviously, as members of council, any of the five of you have the ability to question anything with respect to anything that happens in the city during a meeting of council.
Of course, I'm not asking it be hidden. I'm just saying if it just makes the meeting move better, and it's better for everyone. If Councilmember Sampson really wanted an answer to his question, had he posed it prior to the meeting, Mayor, these title things just have my head spinning. Our city manager or our finance director could have had those prepared for him. And it's not a criticism, it's just a thought. We've done it several times, and perhaps for all of us, it would just be a better way to make our meetings more transparent and more expeditious. That's all I'm thinking. Mr. Sampson?
And I apologize that I asked at the meeting, but I can send you 2 emails where the city manager says he will not talk to anybody except as a group to bring all my questions to the council meeting. So I'm following exactly what he said. Now, if he would like to, wouldn't mind me calling him and talking to him, I could tell him, hey, I'm going to ask this question. It's not a problem. So
Well,
that's why I will ask anything I feel like when we're on the council.
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't ask what you feel like. I'm just saying for to be expeditious in the process, it would be easy to just send an email. I have a question about this, and then he can come prepared with that information. You can still pose it during the meeting. It will still be open. I'm not saying hide your questions. That's not it at all. You should definitely pose questions that you have, and I'm sure he will respond to them appropriately. I'm not trying to say there's anything hidden. That's the last thing I want to imply.
I'm following the city manager's request 100%. So I will bring all my questions in front of the city council so he doesn't have to talk one-on-one with any one of us. So unless he wants to change that, then it's not a problem. I don't mind calling him, give him heads up. But so enough said.
Thank you, Councilmember Moffitt.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Smith, if we send you a question in advance, then you would be satisfying your requirement if you don't answer us, but be prepared to address it in the context of the meeting. That satisfies your request to not demand one-on-one conversations, but gives you the courtesy of having the answer at your fingertips. Would that satisfy your request that the expectation not be that you answer that question, but that you be given the courtesy of being able to be prepared?
But I think if I can recall correctly too, Mr. Smith's concern was giving information to one council person or 2 as opposed to all. I believe that was his intent, so that everyone had the same information. If a question was posed, he would address the response to everybody, which is I appreciate because I might not think of a question. So if that was his intent, and he can surely say what his intent was, I'm sure his goal is not to keep information from any of us. I really just thought if you ever have an issue such as today's, and there is something that needs to be addressed, it'd be nice to be able to address it and not come back to it at a later time. That's all. Mr. Smith, if you have any comments, you may make them. If not, you may.
I concur with Councilmember Moffitt's statement. Yes, I don't like to meet one-on-one in the sense that if it's a private issue that needs to be addressed at the entire council, I would prefer the courtesy. Yes, I will answer the question at the next upcoming meeting. I will state as such so that the entire council will be privy to all the information, because they should be, if it's a simple request like that. I do have the answer. Jill is under my report. I'll bring up the invoice. She did give a breakdown.
Yeah, just send me a copy of it.
Okay, great. Then if that covers all of our questions for Mr. Nushai, we will move on to our city manager's report. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I want to provide a couple updates. The first one is the coronavirus update. Just to let you know, we will be reopening the city offices as well as the DPW offices on Monday, the 24th, back to the public, back to normal office hours, Monday through Thursday. The library, museum, and Hunter Recreation Center will be on a phased-in reopening approach over the next few months, as they are held under specific MIOSHA requirements that we're still waiting on clarity about. I know there's a lot of discussion going on about that, but we're all aware, and we're meeting on Thursday to discuss everything. Scott is going to lead the meeting with all the staff to make sure we're all ready for Monday. We do have all the plexiglass up. We're going to make sure all signage is up, that everyone's prepared for it. And so we were doing that. We are, of course, prepping the buildings to make sure that everything's going in place to hold to the new orders that were just enacted, to make sure that we're following those proper protocols. Of course, I've been talking to Ken that we anticipate also being prepared to return to in-person meetings in July. Of course, because the current local state of emergency order expires at the end of June. So we're trying to be prepped for that in case that's where we're at, to make sure everything is in place for those meetings in person again in July. Again, anything can change. We all know that, as we've seen throughout this pandemic year. We have to remain flexible, but I wanted just to alert you to that as well. That is the anticipated plan, but we also are aware and will be ready for anything in response to that. But we will be reopening the city offices here at City Hall and the DPW offices on Monday, the 24th to the public. Just wanted to let you know about that. The council workshop, remind everyone that the upcoming joint workshop with City Council, Planning Commission, and the Downtown Development Authority will be next Tuesday at 7 p.m. We'll be sending out the information. I believe we'll be talking about what will be on the agenda and sending it out on Thursday, I believe, to all of you. Publicizing that will be an open meeting for everyone. It'll be virtual as well. Job openings, just wanted to provide a brief thing. We have job openings for the Parks and Rec Department, and we did post the Deputy City Clerk position on our website. It's out on MML as well. I did speak with August. His first day will be on the 24th as well. So we're looking forward to bringing him on board. He was fully on board with starting the process, so we can have a deputy clerk in place as well by the time for the August election. So we can potentially have someone here in place, we hope, potentially in July, so they can help with that process. And that will be a great way as a smaller election to get with their dynamic of whoever that is that August chooses. So wanted to let you know about that. Also, I wanted to just provide a statement on, of course, on Tuesday, May 4th, Mayor Reese Scripture resigned her position at the city and levied specific concerns towards administration and alluded to many issues that were perceived to go unanswered. I do not know, of course, all the background of what led to her decision to resign. That is up to her. We all believe that we could have gotten through these items professionally and with hard work. On the contrary, all that was done on her side was directives and innuendos, which led to the ascension, of course, to Mayor Pro Tem Paula Milland and now fulfilling the obligations through November. I appreciate Mayor Milland's candor during this difficult and tenuous transition. I believe we all continue to work together and navigate through the rest of this difficult year. Clearly, we have all gone through a hard year already, dealing with a pandemic, and it was and always remains true to provide space for grace and understanding, breaking down barriers to get to the root of the problems, real or perceived, as tantamount to the success of any organization. I believe that we have a dedicated staff that is up to the task to do just that. Without revocation or threats of not living up to an unrealistic expectation and timelines that are impossible, which sets us all up for failure. Have there been bumps along the way? Of course, no one's perfect, but remember, we have been dealing with personnel deficiencies in a major pandemic during the tenure of the former mayor and myself. It is my job, as I've been assigned, to right the ship and to surround myself with the experts in their fields, and I'm doing just that. But it takes time. You cannot expect me to rebuild Rome in a day. I've been here 9 months, so we're working through this time frame. I lead with integrity, and I'm dedicated to my craft, and to be cast as not living up to my duty as a city manager is a direct hit at my integrity. This job is not an easy one to have, and I've heard and read many statements against me, some, of course, coming from even those that have known me for many years. We all think we know a better way, better process, but it takes work together to dig in and to get the work done. I remind those around me all the time that we will get through this storm together. I did want to, at this time, respond to those statements that were made, because I know the public has been asking about them. As far as the fire pension plan that was discussed, the suspected issue was brought to my attention by the former mayor in late February. In discussion with our attorney, I forwarded an email March 16th and then followed up on March 19th, the official inquiry to the Fire Pension Board attorney. During the past few months, she's been reviewing the inquiry and has provided a determination that was discussed at the public meeting last night, the Fire Pension Board. The author declares that there was no fix. The former mayor said there was no fix to turn volunteer firefighters into employees, and that as a result, the pension plan was never a qualified plan. Of course, their assertion is that it is, and that we were clearly defined participants as volunteer firefighters. And actually, the IRS did confirm its qualification status 3 separate times in November of 2002, 2011, and March 18th of 2014. Thus, there are no issues with the plan, and to cast doubt, I believe, is worrisome. And all of that was a public meeting last night. So that's, to me, that puts that to bed with the fire pension issue. The other issues mentioned was the ethical obligation to discuss a past employee's retirement. I did review all the documents our city attorney already provided back in February. Many items were from me and from his own research that we did. The email stated, and the council agreed, that that was my directive, was to come up with that review. I stated that was my decision, and that was the way it was to be final. I did as I was directed to do, and some of the final decision did not meet with certain personal beliefs. Therefore, my review is therefore fraught, I believe, is what the statement was. This is so far from the truth that is beyond me, that I hold myself up to a high level of integrity. And to those that truly know me, they know I'm meticulous and review all the information provided to me. To me, this issue is done, and we are moving on with that issue as well. And I just wanted to address those two. Mr. Nushai already addressed the water rates. That was the other issue that was directed to me as the administration. And I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to respond. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. I really appreciate your drawing closure to those items that were addressed during the last meeting. It's always confusing. I know serving on council for all of these years, I'm often confused how certain people have information that rest of council does not. And those accusations that were thrown last week, I know that I didn't know, and I know at least one other person on this council was not aware of those things. So thank you so much for all of us for bringing that transparency and for rectifying the questions so quickly, because we don't want things hanging out there. We don't want to look like we're hiding something, or that there is a level of impropriety for no reason, because it just makes people wonder about everything that's going on. And we have too many good things to be working on to be distracted by gossip and innuendo and supposition and all of these things. So thank you so much for that. So does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Smith this evening? I will let Councilmember Sampson go first.
Our former mayor never had innuendos. She had facts. I know you guys think it's over with, but it's not over with yet. So we'll talk about it in the future.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sampson. We're always interested in where you get your information as well, but we'll look forward to those things coming, because I believe this council and this administration intends to address all items as fact and not those other things. And I wasn't casting shade at our former mayor. I did not call out her name, and I wasn't calling out a specific instance. So I guess if you want to take it that way, it's okay, but we're good with that. How about Councilwoman Phillips? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, other than the last 5 minutes was just a waste of my time. I think I appreciate Mike's comments, but I also think this bashing of each other back and forth of past people, it's just like, let's just let it go and move on. I'm so done.
Yes, it sounds like it. How about you, Councilwoman Moffitt?
I would like to thank Mike for taking the opportunity to publicly address and acknowledge what happened, what transpired. We can't ask him to answer questions and then get mad at him when he does so. So thank you for that. And I'll reserve the rest of my comments for later.
Okay, and over the past couple of weeks, there's been so much chatter and speculation over the comments that were made during the last city council meeting. I feel like it's imperative that this council not be guided or manipulated by accusations or innuendo, no matter how well intended. The ultimate goal of the council and the city administration is to address valid concerns as they arrive. However, we will not set our agendas in response to accusations, conjecture, or innuendo, nor can we be driven by claims made on social media or just things lobbed out there. We have a professional staff. Those of us who are serving here are doing so, of goodwill. And our goal is to build something great for all of us. If someone has valid concerns, or bring them to us, let us have an opportunity to fix them the way that they can be fixed instead of throwing and running. It's just not good. So as Mike Pence once so eloquently stated, one may be entitled to their own opinions, but they are not, however, entitled to their own facts. I trust that this council will look always towards the facts and not be clouded by all of those other things, emotion, passion, personal agendas, whatever they may be. We have the ultimate confidence in the professionalism of our city manager, Mike Smith, along with our city attorney, Ron Nushai. These gentlemen very aptly addressed the concerns that were raised over the past couple of weeks, and I personally want to thank them for doing that and thank them for doing it based on the facts. So in the future, I hope we can just move forward. If you have questions or concerns about any of these things that were addressed, please bring them to the appropriate person for inquiry. We will not hide anything. It's an open forum. Councilmember Sampson, whether we agree or disagree, I always enjoy the conversation and I always enjoy learning something from another viewpoint. So of course we will welcome that. It's been a long meeting. We accomplished a couple of good things. We have a few more things on the agenda for the next time. I suggest someone enter a motion to adjourn so we can all go have a nice evening. And Kathy's saying no because
The rest of council comments need to.
oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just so tired. Okay, where are we?
Council comments.
That was council comments, wasn't it?
That was your council comments. There's
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I heard Kathy, I heard Ms. Councilmember Sampson. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I was still on the city manager's report
I'm so sorry.
as far as I was concerned.
Okay, let's go to council comments and I'll refrain. Since you seem ready, Councilwoman Phillips, let's go.
The only thing I wanted to bring up was obviously I have a horrible time hearing at these Zoom meetings and following, and we all know how great the closed caption is because throughout the meeting I've seen a couple snickers, it's like some of the words that come up. So I'm obviously missing like half of what gets said here. I would like to make a motion that we return to opened council meetings when City Hall opens up. And we can do it the way we did when COVID first started, spread out. But I don't see any reason why we can't do that and do a hybrid at the same time for maybe those that don't want to come. But it would benefit me 255 billion% if I could actually be in a room where I wasn't in an echo chamber and I could actually hear everybody, which, as you know, it wasn't my choice to end up like I am right now, but I have to live with it. And I'm just asking not to wait till July. That technically, I don't see why we can't do it when the City Hall opens.
I'll support a motion.
Any conversation?
Let's try it.
Councilwoman Moffitt?
I think that last time we talked about this, we had concerns about the maximum that were allowed in the room and the inability to spread out and allow for whatever public wants to come in. We had limitations aside from the social distancing, was the limitations for people inside that Mr. Nushai had mentioned as well. Do those still exist, Mr. Nushai?
They do. However, there's obviously been some amendments with respect to obviously vaccinated people. So that does affect our ability to potentially host more individuals and reduce the distance between all of us. So obviously it's council decision. The primary concern is accomplishing, and I can't be the one to answer this question, accomplishing that hybrid portion. But so long as we do that, I imagine the rest we could probably work around.
I just have to say that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, am perfectly happy under normal circumstances to sit here at home and not have to get all dressed up and, walk from here to my kitchen or whatever. So doing a Zoom meeting in itself is not my issue. My issue is I'm missing half of the content by doing a Zoom meeting. And I feel like I've been doing that for a long time. And I don't know what other way to go about making things clearer for me other than meeting in public.
And I think, our concerns being what they are, I think just on account of not giving council member Phillips an ADA violation claim, I think we probably need to address some of these issues, but that's just me thinking as an attorney.
If I could offer a suggestion, Madam Mayor?
Of course.
If Councilmember Phillips would be interested, a headset may improve, your ability to hear the audio.
You tried that.
No, I have hearing aids in both ears, Ken. And one ear transfers to the other ear. And then I only have partial understanding tonal wise in the one ear that does work. So if I have one sound, I can focus in on that. But if I've tried the headsets and all they do is they bounce the sound around in my ear.
That's with 2 earphones working, correct?
No, even if I turn off the one.
Okay.
We tried that way in the beginning.
Sure. Well, I'll certainly look into if there are any options for you, but I just wanted to offer that up.
Yeah, I mean, if the closed caption were halfway close, I would probably be okay, but it's.
But Ren is saying he was Catholic for a week, doesn't seem.
I saw you laughing, so. Yeah, we've been called a few names on these closed captions. So I just wanted to throw it out there. It's like I've been very patient and I know it's nobody's fault, but I just think we're so close and I would really appreciate a little bit of a push to get us over this hump. And I would never ask if I didn't feel it was feasible. That's all.
I'm curious if we could wait till after our next meeting and see how City Hall is operating fully back, and how the public responds, and just buy one more meeting, not to push it off forever, Kathy.
I don't have a problem with one more meeting, but I really don't want to wait till July.
I'm just thinking, let City Hall get into their flow, right? Get everyone back and ready, and let's see what people are doing.
Well, if we do a hybrid, they can still be online just like they are now.
But if we do a hybrid and council members don't want to be in person, that doesn't get you where you want to be.
No, but if if it's only one of you, then I'm only hearing one. But right now, what I have to do is every single person that talks, I have to adjust the volume because every one of your microphones are on a different level and you all talk closer or farther away from your mics. So everybody that talks, in order for me not to have reverberation, I have to sit here with my fingers on the sound and change my volume every time a different person talks. So if there's just 1 or 2 people, then the rest would all be tonal in the same room. It's hard to explain until you don't have it yourself.
I don't believe, Kathy, you need to explain to us. The ADA law says we got to give you what you need. So am I right, Mr. Rennes?
The ADA law says you need to make a reasonable accommodations, and the courts, talked about what's reasonable is the closed caption is reasonable. Key phrase is reasonable in the ADA.
Okay. Well, I don't want us to argue about this. I'm just pointing it out to you, that this is an issue and it has been an issue for over a year and I've dealt with it. And with it being on the horizon, I would like to push it a little bit closer. That's all I'm asking.
And I appreciate that you have, that you're having difficulty and that you want to make it better. I do. When we decided to do these meetings, it wasn't based on us. It was based on City Hall employees.
Yeah.
It was based on the public. So I want to take that into consideration as we make this call this evening, which is why I suggest one more meeting out, just to see how things are back to normal. That's all.
Yeah,
I've
and
been going
I
to
don't
work
have a
since
problem
day
with
one. I'm out. I'm not afraid, but I want to consider everyone in this process. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And that's why I suggested a hybrid.
And let's call the vote and see what happens.
Michelle,
What, Lou?
Michelle, let us call the vote, please.
Can you repeat the motion, please, before you call the vote?
Let me reword that motion. Let me just say after the July 1st meeting.
I think you mean June 1st.
June.
June 1st.
June 1st. Thank you.
So the motion would be to go to open the city council meetings in person,
After June 1st.
and that's with a hybrid, or I had hybrid written down as well. Is
Yes.
that include that?
Hybrid to start.
I'll support it still.
June 1st.
Does that mean our June 1st meeting is still as is this evening?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Ready for roll call?
Roll call.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to look at going back to regular meetings after our second meeting in June, whatever date that would be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course. Kathy, do you have anything else for us this evening? No? Councilmember Sampson, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
No, I don't have any comments.
Thank you. How about you, Councilwoman Moffitt?
I'm going to make my regular pledge. You know, you can run, but you also have the opportunity to try it before you buy it. So throw your name into the ring and see if we can't get you an opportunity to try out a seat. You got a couple months that you potentially could serve in that role before you could decide if you want to sign up for long term. And I guess I also want to thank Councilmember Milan for her comments. I hope that the way forward, and I hope that we select someone who partners with us way forward as governing by facts and information shared broadly across the council. And we no longer are relying on rumor and innuendo, and that we hope that we can find someone to join us who upholds that belief. So petitions are due July, is it 20th, Mike, or 30th? I should know, I say it all the time.
I mean, thinking, I wanted to say 25th, but now I think, yeah, you're right, 20th.
Okay, end of July. So please consider 2 council seats, mayor seats up for election. And again, you have the opportunity to try before you buy. So come on down.
Okay, well, with that, I will not take anything else off the agenda as there is nothing else to remove from the agenda. I will say thank you to everyone for your participation this evening. Thank you to all those who participated in the budget workshops over the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate the employees sharing their hopes and dreams and challenges and highlighting what's going on in their departments. So thank you to all of that. I ask all of you to go have a really great evening. Take care of the people that you love and that love you, and be nice. Have a wonderful evening. Oh, someone, sorry.
Usually we need a motion.
I just want to
We adjourn the meeting.
Support.
You don't have to, Kathy. We can stay. And roll call, Michelle.
What did I miss?
Councilmember Phillips,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt.
Yes.
With that, good night, everyone.
What did I miss? What did I?
Thank you, everyone.